Sometimes the cage we flee becomes the freedom we seek, and the wilderness we fear holds the home our hearts always knew. True courage is choosing love over security. The autumn wind rattled the windows of the Thornton mansion in Prairie Village, Colorado. Vivian Thornton sat in her room, staring at the wedding dress that hung like a specter in her wardrobe. At 21, she possessed the kind of beauty that made men stop in their tracks. Auburn hair that caught the light like burnished copper, and eyes the color of Colorado sage. But tonight, those eyes held only despair. Tomorrow, she would be married to Nehemiah Reed, a man she despised. You'll learn to appreciate Reed's qualities, her father, Bartholomew Thornton, had said earlier that evening. The cattle baron's voice carried no warmth, only the cold calculation of a man who saw his daughter as another asset in his empire. He controls half the grazing land in the county. This union will secure our future. Vivian's mother, Eleanor, sat silently in her chair, her hands folded like broken wings. Years of submission had drained the fight from her spirit. The formal dinner was a nightmare. Nehemiah Reed, 15 years her senior, spoke of her as if she were livestock. "She's got good breeding stock written all over her," he told Bartholomew, his tobacco-stained fingers drumming on the mahogany table. "Should give me plenty of sons to work the ranch." His eyes, small and calculating, undressed her with casual cruelty. When he reached across the table to touch her hand, Vivian pulled away as if burned. "Spirited filly," Reed chuckled. "I'll enjoy breaking that." Later that night, as Reed placed his heavy hand on her shoulder in the parlor, something ignited within Vivian's chest, a flame of defiance that had smoldered since childhood. She looked at her father's satisfied expression, her mother's averted gaze, and Reed's possessive smirk. "No," she whispered, the word barely audible. Reed's grip tightened. "What was that, little dove?" The flame grew brighter. "I said no." The room fell silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock, marking the seconds until her rebellion would begin. Under the cloak of midnight darkness, Vivian crept through the silent corridors of her father's mansion. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she gathered her few precious belongings: her mother's golden locket, a leather satchel with bread and dried meat, and the small revolver her uncle had secretly taught her to use. The stable was her destination, where her beloved Mustang mare Dawn waited unknowingly for the journey ahead. "Easy, girl," she whispered, patting the horse's neck. "We're going to find our freedom." The vast Colorado prairie stretched endlessly before them as Dawn's hooves thundered across the moonlit grassland. Vivian had never felt such exhilaration. The wind whipping through her unbound hair, the rhythm of the horse beneath her, the intoxicating taste of liberty. Behind them, Prairie Village grew smaller until it disappeared entirely. "We did it, Dawn," she laughed, tears of joy streaming down her face. For the first time in her life, she belonged to no one but herself. The morning sun painted the horizon gold with promise. 3 weeks of wandering the endless plains had taken their toll. Vivian's skin was burned bronze by the relentless sun, her lips cracked and bleeding. The initial joy of freedom had given way to the harsh reality of survival. Food was scarce, water even scarcer. Each night brought haunting dreams of Reed's searching eyes and her father's wrath. "Just a little further, girl," she murmured to Dawn, though she no longer knew where they were heading. The Mustang's ribs showed through her coat, but her spirit remained unbroken. The sudden hailstorm struck without warning, turning the narrow canyon path into a treacherous sheet of ice. Thunder crashed overhead as hailstones the size of bullets pelted them mercilessly. Dawn reared in terror, her hooves slipping on the wet stone. Vivian fought to maintain control, but the frightened mare stumbled, sending them both tumbling down the rocky slope. Pain shot through Vivian's knee as she hit the ground, while Dawn whinnied in agony, her leg twisted at an unnatural angle. "Oh God, Dawn, I'm so sorry," Vivian sobbed, crawling toward her injured companion. After days of limping through the unforgiving desert, Vivian spotted a thin column of smoke rising from a hidden valley. Her injured knee throbbed with each step, and delirium from thirst made the world shimmer like a mirage. As she stumbled toward the smoke, a figure emerged from behind the rocks, a tall Native American warrior with long dark hair adorned with eagle feathers. His buckskin clothing was decorated with intricate beadwork, and his eyes, dark as obsidian, studied her with unreadable intensity. "Please," she whispered, collapsing to her knees. "Help me." The warrior circled her slowly, his moccasined feet silent on the rocky ground. He took in her torn dress, her sunburned skin, the desperation in her sage-green eyes. When she spoke her name, Vivian, he nodded once, a gesture that seemed to carry the weight of decision. "I am Tahonka," he said, his English heavily accented but clear. His voice held the authority of someone accustomed to command. "You are far from your people, white woman. What brings you to die in my territory?" The question was direct, without malice, but it demanded truth. Tahonka's hands were surprisingly gentle as he examined her injured knee, his fingers probing with the skill of someone well-versed in healing. "Bone is not broken," he announced, producing a leather pouch filled with herbs, "but you walk foolishly for many days." He mixed the herbs with water from his precious supply, creating a paste that stung sharply when applied. "Why do you run?" he asked, wrapping her knee with strips of soft buckskin. "Women of your kind do not wander alone unless they flee something terrible." His dark eyes searched her face, seeking answers. As the sun set behind the canyon walls, painting the sky in shades of copper and gold, Tahonka built up the fire and offered her jerky and water. "You rest here tonight," he said, settling across from her with his rifle within easy reach. "Tomorrow, you tell me your story." The flames danced between them, casting flickering shadows on his weathered face. "I have seen many white settlers pass through these lands," he continued, his voice low and thoughtful. "But none like you. You have the look of one who has chosen a hard path over an easy cage." His words carried understanding that surprised her. A routine established itself in the hidden valley as Vivian's leg healed. Each morning, Tahonka would disappear into the wilderness, returning with rabbits or prairie birds, while she tended the fire and organized their simple camp. Their communication began with gestures and single words, but gradually evolved into broken sentences. "You learn quickly," he observed one evening, watching her skillfully prepare the evening meal. "Most white women would have died from fear alone." She looked up from the cooking pot, meeting his gaze. "I'm not most white women." Something shifted in his expression, perhaps the first hint of respect. The night storm arrived without warning, lightning splitting the sky like God's own whip. Thunder crashed overhead, and in the distance coyotes began their haunting chorus. Vivian huddled closer to the fire, her body trembling, not from cold, but from memories of another storm that had destroyed her life. "The spirits of the prairie speak tonight," Tahonka said, his voice cutting through the wind. "My people believe the coyote carries messages from the other world." He watched her carefully. "What messages do you hear, Vivian?" His use of her name, spoken with careful pronunciation, surprised her. "Tell me about your people," Vivian asked, her curiosity overcoming her fear. The storm had passed, leaving the air clean and electric. Tahonka stared into the flames for a long moment before speaking. "We are children of the Great Plains," he began, his voice carrying the weight of generations. "The earth is our mother, the sky our father. We take only what we need, give thanks for what we receive." His hands moved expressively as he spoke, painting pictures in the air. "But the white man's hunger has no end. He takes the buffalo, the land, the very soul of the prairie. I lost my parents 3 winters ago," Tahonka continued, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "The white man's sickness came through our village like wildfire. My mother, my father, many others, all gone in the span of 2 moons. Pain flickered across his weathered features like shadows from the fire. Since then, I have walked alone, carrying their spirits with me." Vivian felt tears prick her eyes. "I understand loneliness," she said softly. "I've been alone my whole life, even surrounded by people." Their eyes met across the fire, and she saw her own pain reflected in his dark gaze. Dawn broke blood-red over the canyon as 5 masked riders thundered into their camp, their horses' hooves striking sparks from the rocky ground. "Well, well," snarled the leader, his face hidden behind a dirty bandana. "What do we have here? A savage and his white woman? Tahonka was on his feet instantly, his bow already in hand, an arrow nocked and ready. "You are not welcome here," he said, his voice deadly calm. "Leave now, and you will not be harmed." The bandits laughed, their leader pulling a rifle from his saddle. "5 against 1, savage. I like those odds." The battle erupted with savage intensity. Tahonka moved like liquid lightning, his arrow finding its mark in the leader's shoulder before the man could raise his rifle. His tomahawk flashed in the morning sun as he dodged between the horses, striking with precision that spoke of years of warfare. But the odds were overwhelming. "Behind you!" Vivian screamed, grabbing a burning branch from the fire. Without thinking, she lunged at a bandit trying to flank Tahonka, the flames catching his sleeve. The man howled, his horse rearing in terror. "You crazy woman!" he shouted, beating at the flames. Just when defeat seemed certain, war cries echoed from the canyon walls. A young warrior appeared on the ridge, his rifle smoking from a fresh shot. "Akacheta!" Tahonka called to his younger brother, relief evident in his voice. The newcomer was smaller than Tahonka, but moved with the same deadly grace, his braided hair streaming behind him as he descended into the camp. Together, the brothers drove off the remaining bandits, who fled cursing and bleeding into the desert. "You fought like a true warrior," Akacheta said to Vivian, his English better than his brother's. "I will call you Brave Spirit." The 4-day journey to the main settlement tested Vivian's endurance, but she refused to show weakness. Akacheta rode beside her, regaling her with stories of his people while Tahonka scouted ahead. "My brother has been alone too long," the younger man confided. "You have brought something back to his eyes that I thought was lost forever." As they crested the final hill, Vivian gasped. Below them spread a village of painted teepees, arranged in a perfect circle, smoke rising from cooking fires, children playing between the lodges. "Welcome to our home, brave spirit," Akacheta said with a grin. "Prepare to meet the Council of Elders." The Council of Elders sat in a semicircle around the sacred fire, their weathered faces painted with ceremonial markings. Tahonka stood before them, his voice carrying clearly in the still evening air as he recounted their story. "This woman fought beside me against our enemies," he declared. "She has proven her courage and deserves our protection." The eldest, a woman with silver braids and knowing eyes, studied Vivian intently. "Step forward, child," she commanded. "Let old Wispanomi see what the spirits have brought to our people." Vivian approached nervously, feeling the weight of generations in those ancient eyes. As Vivian knelt before the fire, her mother's golden locket caught the flickering flames and began to glow with an inner light. The gathered elders gasped, and Wispanomi's eyes widened with recognition. "Remove the locket," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. With shaking hands, Vivian lifted the chain over her head. The moment the firelight touched the gold directly, ancient symbols became visible, etched so finely they had been hidden for decades. "Spirits of our ancestors," Wispanomi breathed. "Where did you get this sacred token?" The entire council leaned forward, waiting for her answer. "It was my mother's," Vivian said, her voice barely audible. "She died when I was 16, but she always wore this locket. She said it was all she had left of her family." Wispanomi's eyes filled with tears as she traced the symbols with a gnarled finger. "This belonged to my sister, Little Dove, who left our people 30 years ago for love of a white trader. She was with child when she departed, and we never saw her again." The old woman looked up at Vivian with wonder. "You are her granddaughter, child. The blood of our people flows in your veins." The revelation struck Vivian like lightning. Everything suddenly made sense. Her quick adaptation to life in the wilderness, her natural affinity for Tahonka's way of life, the strange dreams that had haunted her childhood. "My mother never told me," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "She hid the truth my entire life." Wispanomi reached out and touched her cheek gently. "She protected you the only way she knew how. In the white world, being half-blood brings only suffering." The shaman turned to address the council. "She is one of us, returned home at last. I grant her the teepee of her grandmother and the name Little Dove Reborn." Tahonka watched the ceremony with something new in his eyes. Not just protection, but belonging. Months passed like seasons of contentment as Vivian embraced her new life. Under the guidance of Sakawia, A wise elder woman, she learned to weave baskets from prairie grass, prepare traditional medicines from roots and herbs, and speak the flowing language of her mother's people. Her teepee became a place of healing, where injured warriors and sick children found comfort. "You have found your path, little dove," Sakawiya observed one morning, watching Vivian tend to a fever-stricken child. "The spirits smile upon your return." But even in this peaceful valley, shadows of the past were gathering like storm clouds on the horizon. The rider arrived at dawn, his horse lathered with sweat and foam. "Bounty hunters," he gasped to the council, accepting water from Akacheda's hands. "A man named Casper Steele leads them. They offer gold, more gold than most have ever seen, for information about a white woman with auburn hair." The messenger's eyes found Vivian across the circle. "They search every settlement, every trading post. They say she belongs to Nehemiah Reed, and he will have her back." Tahonka's jaw tightened, his hand instinctively moving to his tomahawk. "How many ride with this Steele?" he demanded. "7 men, all armed with repeating rifles." Casper Steele was a legend among bounty hunters, a man who had never failed to bring back his quarry, dead or alive. His cold blue eyes missed nothing as he questioned settlers and traders across the territory. "Reed's offering $500, he told his men around their campfire. "That's enough to set us up for life, boys. The girl's out here somewhere, and we're going to find her." His reputation preceded him like the scent of death. Even hardened outlaws gave Steele a wide berth, knowing that once he took a contract, he would pursue his target to the ends of the earth. The war party scouts returned with grim news. "They come from the east," reported Running Bear, the tribe's best tracker. 7 riders, well-armed, moving directly toward our valley. They will be here before the sun reaches its peak tomorrow." The council convened immediately, their voices urgent in the firelight. Tahonka stood before them, his face painted for war. "We can fight them," he declared. "Drive them back to where they came from." But Wispanomi shook her head sadly. "Violence will only bring more violence, grandson. The white soldiers will come, and our people will suffer for protecting one woman." The weight of her words settled over the gathering like a burial shroud. That night, Vivian made the most difficult decision of her life. As the village slept, she sat writing a letter by moonlight, her tears blotting the ink. "My beloved friends," she wrote in careful script, "I cannot allow my presence to bring harm to those who have shown me such kindness. By the time you read this, I will be gone. Please do not follow me. Your lives are too precious to risk for one woman's freedom. I go to face my fate so that you may live in peace." She sealed the letter with wax from a candle and placed it beside the cold ashes of her fire. Before dawn could break, Vivian slipped from her teepee like a ghost, taking only her mother's locket and a small knife. She saddled one of the horses quietly, her heart breaking with each step that took her further from the only place she had ever truly belonged. The abandoned mining town of Deadwood Gulch lay 2 days' ride to the east, a perfect place for a final confrontation. "If I must face Steele," she whispered to the wind, "let it be on ground of my choosing, far from innocent blood." Behind her, the village slept peacefully, unaware their adopted daughter was riding towards certain doom. Tahonka discovered her absence at first light. "No!" he roared, crushing the letter in his fist. "She rides to her death and we sit here like cowards." Akacheta was already saddling his horse. "Then we ride after her, brother. We are warriors. We do not abandon our own." Despite Wispanomi's protests, the 2 brothers thundered out of the valley, following Vivian's trail toward Deadwood Gulch. "We may already be too late," Akacheta called over the pounding hooves. Steele's men had a full day's head start. Tahonka's face was grim as carved stone. "Then we pray the spirits guide our horses' speed." In the crumbling saloon of Deadwood Gulch, Vivian waited with the patience of the condemned. The building creaked in the desert wind, its broken windows staring out like hollow eyes. When Steele and his men surrounded the building, she felt strangely calm. "Vivian Thornton," Steele called through the batwing doors, his voice like grinding stone. "Your running days are over. Reed's waiting for his bride." She stepped into the doorway, her chin raised defiantly. "I have a proposition, Mr. Steele, one that might interest a man of your business acumen." Steele's cold smile never wavered, but his eyes showed curiosity. I'm listening, girl. I'll pay you double Reed's bounty, Vivian said, her voice steady despite the rifles pointed at her. But I need 1 month to liquidate my mother's estate in Denver. Take me to town, give me time to gather the funds, and you'll have $1,000 instead of $500. Steele's eyes narrowed with suspicion and greed. What's to stop you from running again, girl? Vivian held up her hands in surrender. Because I'm tired of running, Mr. Steele. And because... She paused as Tahonka and Akacheta's horses thundered into view. I have something worth more than money to protect. Steele's men raised their weapons as the brothers dismounted. $1,000, Steele repeated, his mind calculating the profit. But I'll need collateral to ensure you don't disappear again. His cold gaze shifted to Tahonka, who stood with his hand on his tomahawk. The warrior stays with me until you return with the money. If you run, he dies slowly. Vivian's heart nearly stopped. No, take me now, but leave him out of this. Steele's laugh was like breaking glass. Those are my terms, girl. Take them, or watch your friend die right here. Tahonka stepped forward, his dark eyes meeting Vivian's. I accept his terms, he said quietly. Do what you must do, little dove. Just as Steele reached for his bonds to tie Tahonka, the thundering of hooves announced another arrival. Nobody move, shouted a voice heavy with authority. Federal Marshal James Rockcastle rode into the clearing, his star gleaming in the afternoon sun, followed by 3 deputies with drawn weapons. Casper Steele, you're under arrest for robbery of the U.S. mail. Steele's face went white as his hand froze over his gun. You got no proof, Marshal. Rockcastle smiled grimly. Got a letter from a concerned citizen describing your crimes? Seems someone's been paying attention to your bragging. His eyes found Vivian briefly. A flash of understanding passed between them. The shootout was brief but fierce. Steele, desperate and cornered, drew his weapon only to take a bullet in the shoulder from Rockcastle's Colt. His men scattered like tumbleweeds in a windstorm, their loyalty extending only as far as their next paycheck. You set me up, Steele gasped, clutching his wounded arm as the deputies shackled him. That letter, it was you. Vivian stepped forward, no longer afraid. A traveling merchant passed through our valley last month. Amazing what information reaches a federal marshal when good citizens do their civic duty. With Steele captured and his gang disbanded, Reed's reach had been effectively severed. The nightmare that had driven her from home was finally over. The journey back to the valley felt like a triumphant procession. Word of Steele's capture had spread quickly through the territory, and Vivian found herself hailed as a hero by her adopted people. You risked everything to protect us, Wispanomi said as they sat by the sacred fire. But the spirits have one more gift to reveal. The old shaman's eyes twinkled with ancient secrets. Your grandmother's locket holds more than memories, child. It is the key to a treasure our ancestors left for future generations. She traced the symbols on the golden surface. These markings point to a sacred place in Red Canyon, where our people hid their greatest wealth during the dark times. Tahonka rode beside Vivian toward Red Canyon, their horses picking their way carefully along the narrow mountain trail. What do you think we'll find? She asked, her voice echoing off the towering red walls. Wispanomi speaks in riddles sometimes. Tahonka smiled, a rare expression that transformed his weathered features. My grandmother speaks truth, even when it sounds like dreams. Our people were wise. They knew that gold and silver mean nothing when your children starve. The canyon opened before them like a cathedral, its walls painted in shades of crimson and gold by the setting sun. There, he pointed to a hidden alcove, where the eagle soars. The treasure they discovered defied all expectations. Instead of gold coins or precious gems, the hidden chamber contained something far more valuable: ancient seeds preserved in clay vessels, along with detailed pictographs showing their cultivation and use. Medicines, Vivian breathed, recognizing some of the plants from her training with Sakawiya. These are seeds for healing plants that no longer grow wild. The pictographs revealed generations of accumulated knowledge about their properties, cultivation methods, and preparations. With these, Tahonka said reverently, Our people can heal both body and spirit for countless generations to come. As the golden sunset painted the valley, Tahonka took Vivian's hand beside the stream. You came running from one life, he said softly, but found your true purpose here. She looked at the peaceful village. Children playing, elders sharing stories, the timeless rhythm of harmony with the land. I was meant to be here, she realized, touching her locket. Not as someone's possession, but as a bridge between worlds. His eyes reflected the dying light. Will you walk this path with me, little dove, as my equal partner? Her answer came with the evening wind. Always.